Face reality, people. Movies are dead. Games are dead. Narrative? Dead.
Media is nothing but neural trigger response and viral conditioning.
Wait, what are you two talking about?
All right, welcome to the deep dive. So today we're diving into your world, really. You sent us this video review of Penguin. Season 1, Episode 6, Gold Summit. And whoa, this reviewer, they did not hold back. So this whole deep dive is going to be about unpacking their criticisms,
right,
and seeing if their points, hold up. Penguin, for those who haven't seen it, it's a spin-off from, that whole Batman universe, focusing on, Penguin's rise through the Gotham underworld, right?
Yeah, it's really fascinating how much they care about, good storytelling, They're calling out some pretty fundamental elements, like how Penguin goes from almost being taken out to lead like an army and multiple crime families, and it all happens like overnight.
It's like 1 minute he's scrambling, the next he's got like kingpins bowing to him, the reviewer's practically yelling at the screen like, how is this even possible?
Yeah.
So what do you make of this from a storytelling standpoint?
This whole complaint about Penguin's rise, it touches on a classic dilemma for crime dramas, really. It's like, do you stick to gritty realism, or do you speed things up for, dramatic effect? Shows like The Wire lean toward realism, building tension, like slowly. Then you have shows like Empire, which embrace a faster, like more of a soap opera pace. It all comes down to what the audience expects and what keeps them hooked.
Okay, so is Penguin more Wire or more Empire?
Well, based on this review, it sounds like the show is trying to have it both ways, and that's where the problems start.
Speaking of problems, the reviewer also had a major issue with the episodes, with the time jumps. They're totally confused about the pacing, especially with that whole construction scene at Penguin's new lair. It seems like a lot of time has passed, but the episode doesn't make it clear how much. The reviewer even said they had to rewind a few times, just trying to figure it out. I have to admit, I got a little lost there too.
Yeah, time jumps can be tricky. They can be a powerful tool to move the story forward. But if they aren't handled carefully, they can leave the audience, they can leave them in the dust. The key is to use clear visual cues or even dialogue that grounds the viewer in time. Think of it like those date stamps you see on screen sometimes, like 6 months later or something like that. It's
funny you say that because the reviewer specifically mentions those missing date stamps. They're like, give me something, anything to help me track this timeline. So in your opinion, is it a cardinal sin to leave out those kinds of cues?
Not necessarily, but the show has to find other ways to keep the audience, to keep them oriented. They could use dialogue, for example, to subtly reference the passage of time, or they could rely on on visual cues like showing the changing seasons, or even characters aging.
Okay, so that's Penguin's rise to power,
yeah,
and that whole time jump debacle. But here's where things get really interesting, or at least according to the reviewer, they have this whole theory about Sophia, another major character in the show, and how she's being used as like bait to trigger certain viewers. Remember, Sophia was previously thought to be the hangman, but it turned out she wasn't.
Right, and the reviewer seems to think that the show is intentionally using Sophia's character to exploit the audience's knowledge, even if her actions don't really make sense.
Yeah.
Within the world of the
Well, and are we really saying that the writers intentionally made Sophia act illogically just to annoy like a specific audience? I'm not sure I buy that. Maybe there's a simpler explanation we're missing. I mean, writers aren't always perfect, right?
Oh, of course not. But it's still an interesting point. The reviewer is suggesting that the show might be sacrificing character consistency for the sake of stirring up controversy, or maybe even playing to certain audience expectations. Whether it's intentional or not, it's definitely something to consider.
All right, next up we have the saga of Penguin's mother and her freezing apartment. This is where the reviewer really let loose. Apparently Penguin's dear old mom is left shivering in her apartment despite Penguin having access to a seemingly endless supply of resources.
And it gets even more absurd when you consider that Penguin is shown struggling to fix a generator with pliers in one scene, then uses those same pliers to threaten politicians into restoring power to his mother's neighborhood. The reviewer had a field day with that detail.
Oh, I bet. It's like dude, if you're powerful enough to strong arm a politician, surely you can get a decent electrician over to your mom's place, right? It definitely highlights a potential disconnect between the show's attempt to portray Penguin's love for his mother and his actions in the episode. Talk about mixed messages.
Right. This gets at the heart of how writers, how they balance character consistency with plot demands. Sometimes the desire for a dramatic moment can lead to inconsistencies in how characters behave.
So we've covered Penguin's quick rise, those confusing time jumps, Sophia's questionable actions, and the whole frozen mom debacle. But you know what really got under the reviewers' skin? The other reviewers who actually liked the episode.
Yeah, they seem to think that most of the reviews are just like surface level recaps.
Yeah.
Using like vague terms, like good pacing and interesting character arcs without any real analysis.
Yeah, the reviewer was pretty brutal, calling them out for being like uncritical cheerleaders and challenging them to like actually debunks their points. I mean, it's one thing to enjoy an episode, but it's another to gloss over potential problems, right?
It definitely highlights the different roles that reviewers can play. Are they simply summarizing the plot for potential viewers, or are they offering a more critical perspective that analyzes the show's strengths and weaknesses? This reviewer seems to be advocating for the latter.
And one of the examples they use is that whole situation with Penguin's mother being left in a freezing apartment. They even point out the absurdity of Penguin struggling to fix a generator with pliers when he supposedly has an entire construction crew at his disposal. It's like, pick a lane, writers.
Exactly. It highlights the disconnect between the show's attempts to portray Penguin's love for his mother and his actions within the episode. It's a classic case of telling versus showing. The writers tell us that Penguin cares deeply for his mother, but his actions don't always support that claim.
And then there's the whole thing about Sophia's character being used as like mate for a certain type of audience reaction. The reviewer suggests that her portrayal might be intentionally designed to trigger those who are critical of of like feminist agendas in media. What do you make of that?
Well, it raises a fascinating question about how creators sometimes try to anticipate and manipulate audience responses. Are they genuinely trying to represent, complex characters, or are they simply playing to certain demographics, or trying to provoke controversy? It's a slippery slope, and it's hard to say for sure what the writer's intentions, what they were.
It's almost like the reviewer is accusing the show of being a bit too self-aware, a bit too calculated in its attempts to appeal to different, segments of the audience. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
It's certainly possible, and that can sometimes come across as disingenuous or manipulative, like the show's trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's a delicate balance, and it's not always easy to pull off.
And speaking of balance, the reviewers seem particularly frustrated. By the way, the way the episode wraps up, Penguin was in a seemingly impossible situation at the end of the previous episode, and suddenly he has an army of supporters and the backing of multiple crime families. It's like the writers just waved a magic wand and made all his problems disappear.
This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that tension between realism and dramatic effect.
Yeah.
If a character overcomes obstacles too easily, or their success feels unearned, it can undermine the audience's sense of investment in the story. We need to believe that the stakes are real, that there are consequences for actions.
The reviewer actually compared the show's writing to that of the CW show Superman and Lois, which they argue has more more cohesion and consistency, despite being a more campy and lighthearted series. I thought that was a pretty interesting comparison.
It is. It suggests that even a show with a more fantastical premise can still have a stronger sense of internal logic and character development than a show that's ostensibly more grounded. in realism.
It's like they're saying that a show can be entertaining and fun without sacrificing basic storytelling principles. And honestly, I have to agree with them there. I've seen plenty of shows that manage to pull off both of them.
Absolutely, and that brings us to the core of what this reviewer is advocating for: a higher standard of storytelling in television. They're not just nitpicking; they're genuinely passionate about wanting to see shows that respect their audience's intelligence and deliver compelling narratives with believable characters and well-earned payoffs. It's not too much to ask, right?
Not at all. And it's refreshing to see someone who cares enough to be so critical, to demand better from the shows they watch. It's easy to just sit back and consume content passively. But this reviewer is actively engaging with the material, asking tough questions, and holding the creators accountable. I think that's something we should all strive for.
I completely agree. And their enthusiasm, even when it's fueled by frustration, is kind of infectious. It makes you want to go back and rewatch the episode with a more critical eye to see if you notice the same things they did.
Exactly. This whole deep dive has been a fascinating exercise in media literacy. We've gone beyond simply summarizing the plot and delved into the nuances of storytelling, character development, and the role of criticism.
It really makes you think about the choices creators make, and how those choices, how they impact our understanding of the story, even seemingly small details like the way a time jump is handled, or how a character reacts in a given situation can have a ripple effect on the overall narrative.
Absolutely. So for you, there, listener, we have a question to ponder. How much do inconsistencies or plot contrivances, how much do they affect your enjoyment of a TV show or film? Do you find yourself overlooking them if the overall story is engaging, or do you, like this reviewer, find them to be like deal breakers?
It's a question worth considering. We all have different thresholds for what we're willing to accept in the name of entertainment. Sometimes those little slip-ups, they can be endearing, like oh, the writers make a little goof there, but I still love this show. Other times they can take you right out of the story. It's all subjective.
Right. And I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. It's not just about whether Penguin is a good or bad show. It's about recognizing that there are different levels of engagement, different ways of approaching the media we consume. We can choose to just sit back and enjoy the ride, or we can put on our critical thinking caps and really dissect the choices the creators are making.
Exactly. And sometimes a little bit of critical analysis can actually enhance our viewing experience. We might start noticing things we hadn't before, appreciating the subtle details. Or conversely, becoming more aware of the flaws. It's all about becoming more and more conscious, more active participants in the storytelling process.
It's like that saying, once you see it, you can't unsee it. This deep dive has definitely given us a new lens through which to view Penguin, and maybe even other shows as well.
And who knows? Maybe you'll even be inspired to share your own passionate reviews with us. We're always up for a new deep dive.
That's right. The deep dive is always ready for your next stack of sources. So if something you're reading or watching has sparked some strong opinions, send it our way. We'll dive in together and see what we can uncover. Until then, happy viewing.